Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Professional Brotherhood podcast. Good evening, Kara.
Good evening, Brian.
How are you tonight?
I am doing well, and how are you?
I'm good. You look a little tired.
It was a long night, but that's okay. You'll have that.
Was it a long night in Jobtown?
It was a long night in Jobtown, yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
And a short night in Sleeptown.
All right. Well, would you do me the honors of introducing today's guest?
I would love to introduce.
Because I want to keep you on your game, because I don't want you to fall asleep in the middle of the podcast. So we're gonna put a little bit more responsibility in your court.
Thanks for having so much faith in me. I really appreciate it. Today we are lucky enough to have a great guest, Ian Palmer of Thin Line Fitness. And Ian was gracious enough to join us tonight to talk about fitness in the fire service and lots of other things. Pretty much, I'm going to just put him right on the spot. Make Firefighters Fit Again. Put him right on the spot and ask him whatever my little heart desires. And he's a captive audience, so it's probably going to be great.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Looking forward to it.
So, Ian, to start, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, if you would, for everybody listening?
Absolutely. So, Ian Palmer, I'm owner of Thin Line Fitness. I'm a career fireman in Rondequoit. We're right on the border of City of Rochester, like hour and a half from Syracuse. Before I was hired as a fireman,
I was going to say he's more upstate than you, Kara. So does that make him the real upstate?
We are on the same linear upstate range. He's just more westy than I am.
All right. Yeah,
Western.
I guess you're right. I would still consider Ian more upstate than you, but whatever. Okay. Sorry, Ian. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yes, no, please continue.
So, but before I was hired, I was a volunteer for close to 10 years at the same fire department I work for now. And 3 generations before me were firefighters in the same fire department as well. So I'm really happy, really proud to have a lot of history in this firehouse. Obviously, it's not the same firehouse. They've rebuilt it a few times. But really happy when we always go through old pictures. We see pictures of my great-grandpa, a couple of my uncle, a lot of my grandfather. Get to point them out to him and say, hey, you had hair back then, or your hair was black back then. So, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. Started Thin Line Fitness in March of 2017. Pretty much immediately after I got certified as a personal trainer through the National Council on Strength and Fitness. It was a goal and it was a dream of mine for a very long time. And when I was on my last deployment overseas, I'm like, yeah, why not? Many may admit, on deployments there is a lot of downtime and you get very bored and you look for things to do because there's nothing to do. So I researched different ways to get certified as a personal trainer and really didn't want to attend college at the time, which is silly now because I'm in college now.
I was going to say, just doing it now.
I pretty much went balls to the wall to, get certified, learn as much as I could, and bit the bullet on starting the business, and it's been going. Really happy with how much has been accomplished the last 3.5 years, and looks like just sky's the limit from here. Got great people like Kara that I get to work with, and I don't know if she's told you or you guys talked about it at all before, but she's at the State Fire Academy as well. We got a real good team set aside now. Real great instructors from City of Ithaca. One of them's British too.
Wow.
Yes. Affectionately known as British
Kevin.
Kevin.
The recruits. But that's me.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to see the things that you guys are doing at the academy. I mean, as somebody that has been there many times and woken up to the cadets out on their run many a times, that was pretty much the extent of it. I know for many years was running.
I went through there in 2009. Actually, I graduated 5 days ago, 9 years ago.
Oh,
Happy anniversary.
yeah, happy anniversary.
I went through with 3 guys I work with right now.
Mm-hmm.
We were all volunteers and we put ourselves through because it was our goal to get hired at this fire department. And it's amazing to see that stuff's happened. My best friend went through with him. I was the best man in his wedding. He was the best man in mine. My daughter's godfather went through with him, and another really, really good friend of mine, Andy. He works the shift that we see. We come off shift, we see them sit at the table, chat. So it's awesome to see just how far we've all come since 11 years ago now. That we've all
Right.
accomplished the dream, got what we needed, got what we wanted to get. So
Cool. Good
it's a
stuff.
good life.
Yeah.
But yeah, the PT instructor then was Chief Margate,
Yep.
and at the time he had stage 4. Did you ever meet him when you were up there,
I haven't.
Brian?
Yeah. Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Several times.
yeah, he was an awesome dude. He was the epitome of tough. He had stage 4 cancer when he was our instructor,
Mm-hmm.
and he wouldn't run with us, but he would bike with us when we were on our runs. So it was pretty funny trying to keep cadence with him on a bike. So it was either really, really fast runs or really, really slow runs.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
it sucked when he died. And he passed it on to the guys that we ended up taking over the program from. That were, I don't know how much Karis told you, but they were instructors for prisoners, and they just put them through prisoner PT. And
Mm-hmm.
as anybody who has a bit of a brain knows, that's not what firefighters need.
Right.
So,
And
Yeah.
and they feel enough like prisoners when they're up there as it is.
Yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
need to make them feel like prisoners even more, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
I do want to talk a little bit about that initially. And I know we talk a lot about fitness in the fire service on the program and how important it is. And I think that I'm noticing that there is starting to be a lot more talk about it, both on social media and within firehouses and among firefighters. And I think it's so important, and it's so great to have that momentum going and that kind of cultural shift towards not just stopping at academy or stopping at passing your CPAT, but continuing on for longevity in your career and longevity in your service and for your health, to stay fit and be fit. And I think that one of the barriers to people getting started is that there's so much information and so many different types of fitness and ways to participate in fitness activities, that I think that sometimes people that don't necessarily have that in them or aren't already on a program don't really know where to start. And one of the things that I work on with St. Florian Fitness and you work on with Thin Line is fitness for firefighters. And can you talk a little bit about how that's different rather than
Yeah.
just getting into a regular fitness program?
Yeah, so and I even see it with people that have been into fitness for years, and you kind of introduce them to the firefighter fitness side of things, and when you tell them that bench press isn't the most conducive movement for firefighters, they're like, what? But how often do you mimic that movement?
Right.
I told the guys some of them I work with, unless God forbid, roof
Something
collapses
falls
and I
on you.
gotta press it off of me.
Press it off. Yeah.
That's the only moment in time I'm ever gonna need that.
Yeah.
But a lot is what the person's comfort level is, and that obviously comes from conversations or meeting face to face, and actually getting to spending that hour rather than beating them with PT and showing them different movements, just getting to know them. Putting them through. I like to do it's pretty much a standard test of just a mile run or bike if they have bad knees. See how long it
Right.
takes them to get to that mile, what their heart rate is
Right.
before, after. A push-up test, a squat test, and a range of motion for their shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to test their flexibility and mobility. It's nothing crazy, and that's the workout. That whole thing takes maybe 20 minutes. After that, we talk, we get to know them. We really just figure out what the plan should be, because their goal may be to be more functional, but they also want to lose 30 pounds.
Right.
You know, it's a lot different than a person that wants to be functional but also gain 30 pounds of muscle.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the extreme. I'm sure you have too.
Right.
A lot of recruits getting ready, um, they just they lacked that physical fitness, unfortunately, for a large portion of their life, and they're finally realizing, oh shit, the academy starts in a month. I got to do something.
Right, right.
Right.
Whether
Definitely.
it's a month away or not, that month of work is going to make you a lot more prepared than if you just sit on the couch and play PlayStation.
Sure.
Right. And when we talk about like even just with the running, endurance running or marathon training, or those are admirable goals, and that can be, part of anybody's, fitness goals, but that's not necessarily what is going to be most useful to train for firefighters.
Yeah, I'm huge on sprints and short bursts rather than
Right.
distance running. I used to be very big into distance running,
Mm-hmm.
and I really enjoyed it. My 3 mile time was like 20 minutes, and I
Wow.
was really happy about that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
sound like a
Well,
3 minute timer in here.
Uh-oh. See, it's like one of those lights if you don't move around.
Yeah, I'm too short to reach the thing too. Uh, yeah, yeah, a lot of people don't realize that even if you're doing 50-meter sprints, you're still getting a lot of that cardiac work in because cardio is cardiac. They think lungs, they think lung capacity, which
right.
Right.
sprints, in my opinion, and I'm sure with studies as well that people listening can look up that I've looked up. Sprints increase your lung capacity a lot better than that distance running because you're working harder, you're breathing harder, and
Mm-hmm.
it increases your VO2 max as well.
And we talk a lot about too, what does it look like when we're working on the fire ground? It's
Yeah.
not we have that initial requirement of, we need that adrenaline rush and that big boost of energy, and we need a lot of cardiac output initially, and when we're on the attack or on search for structure fire calls. And then you need to have a little bit of a slower pace but longer cycle of cardiac output for things like overhaul, salvage, packing up, mopping up, things like that. So training, and I know that for people that have that follow me and have listened to the show, I use a lot of high intensity interval training to mimic that kind of style. And I know that that's what you do as well, and some of your workouts for
Yeah, so
the same reason.
I the fact, and I'm glad you said it, was when we do search.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm sure you've seen a lot of people probably seen the MET chart that the fire service leaders or fire chiefs of America, whatever that organization is, put out. And a firefighter doing search, we put out, depending on the size of the person, obviously, but we use more METs, or the MET is more than that of a professional football player,
Right.
just a little bit less than that of a professional soccer player. But when you do the math and you just do some quick research, average size of an NFL player, it's 220 pounds.
Right.
Cool. Look up the average size of a soccer player, it's 175 pounds. Cool.
Right.
Me and my gear, I'm 265 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I burn more calories doing that 3 minutes of surge than an NFL player does doing his tasks. And no matter what, we burn a lot more calories and we do a lot more work than that soccer player during his match. Because we have
Right.
that short window of time rather than a 90-minute soccer match or
Right.
NFL. It's 10 seconds of play, break. It is
Right.
intent, interval training, intervals that the NFL players do, but the actual calories burned doing our tasks for the average firefighter is a lot more. So we are putting in a lot more work.
Right. Right. And that's just such an important thing that I think people don't think about and don't realize. And being overall fit and healthy is so important. But the way that we use our bodies as firefighters, and even, like we all talk about, we do a lot more EMS work these
Mm-hmm.
days. Even that, getting up and down flights of stairs, carrying patients up and down flights of stairs in a stair chair, lifting and, loading stretchers, things like that. That's still those short bursts of needed energy and cardiac output and strength output, followed by a long ride in the ambulance or filling out paperwork at a desk or whatever. So there's all those highs and lows, no matter what the job is within the scope of being a firefighter.
Yeah. Yeah, and the ambulance rides too, it could be load and go, then you got to do CPR for
Right.
15 minutes or however long that ride is. And I don't care who you are, 10, 15 minutes of CPR is going to wear you out.
Yeah. I will never forget I went in, rode in with an ambulance, and we were doing CPR the whole way in, and it was from a fairly rural area. And it was like the worst timing ever, but I had my Apple Watch on, and it just kept pinging saying like, you've made your whatever goal. And I'm like, this is not the time. This is not the time, Apple.
We have noticed that you're doing a HIIT training right now. Would you like to start your exercise?
Would you like to start your cardiac training while you're doing your CPR? But I think that also like just goes to show that it's like, oh my God, something's going on with you,
Yeah.
like you're doing something different than you were 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I back to it. I do enjoy the more interval style workouts. I still obviously do occasionally do a 2 or 3 mile run just because for the military I have to.
Right.
We get timed on our 1.5 mile run. We've got to meet a certain time criteria if we don't want to be considered fat bodies. I'm 5'7" and 220 pounds, but my 1.5 mile time is remarkable. It's because when I lost all this weight when I was 18, all I did was run.
Mhm.
Right.
So those legs apparently stayed with me, which I'm really happy
Right.
for. But for
Right.
the most part, my cardio consists of sprints on the air bike, which I absolutely love, and sprints outside, sled sprints, sled pushes, pulls.
Mhm.
Got a good rower here at the firehouse, so I use that once in a while.
Yeah.
But what we do as firefighters, it's like you said, it's all short interval stuff.
Right.
Yeah, we maybe once a year we've got a wreck on the expressway, or we got a bridge that goes over the bay where traffic just backs up, and we gotta haul everything like a 1/2 mile. But luckily, that's never happened with me on my group. It's always been other groups.
Right.
But there's those very rare opportunities where, yeah, you're gonna have to hoof it with a lot of crap for a significant distance.
Right.
I'm
Or
more,
like even search and rescue, right?
yeah, yeah, and
I
I'm
know.
more concerned about can I carry the 35-foot ladder 200 feet to the apartment building,
Right.
because that's what I have to do. That's the
Right.
realism
Right.
of my life.
I noticed two interesting trends when it comes to firefighter fitness. The one is people that just don't want to buy into it, period, which is the frustrating trend. All right. But then the other trend I notice are the people that will, and I share a lot of your stuff. I share a lot of Kara's stuff, a few other, firefighter fitness folks on social media that I'll share their content. The other trend I notice is people that will look at something that one of you guys put up and they'll be like, oh, that's too short. Like that's not,
Right.
that's
Yeah. It's
that's
not
not
hard enough.
that's not
It's
hard
not.
enough.
Yeah.
That's fitness. That's not fitness. And I'm like, did you try it?
Yeah,
Like,
give it a try.
like,
Yeah.
what do you mean it's not? I mean, Kara posted something one day. It's probably still written on my whiteboard over here on the other side of my basement. It was like 4 moves, like 3
Right.
rounds for time, something. When you looked at it, it was like, this is gonna be nothing, And when I was done 20 minutes later,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was wasted. And I
Right.
consider myself in pretty good shape, and I'm thinking, the people that tend to make these comments, I'm like, you need to like give it a shot, give it
Right.
a try before you
Yeah, there's a
poo-poo.
reason it's called high intensity rather than,
Right,
Right.
right,
yeah,
right.
I'm sure you've seen it. I absolutely love my deadlifts and my power moves.
Yeah.
I devote a day to that where, yeah, it's, 1 to 3 lifts, then I take a break because that's the curve you need to follow if you really want to do it properly.
Yeah.
But I follow that up with a lot of box jumps, some bike sprints, everything else. but that's 1 day a week.
Yeah,
Other
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like today, I did a pretty intense, it was kettlebell, shoulder press, reverse crunches. That's
Mhm.
it.
That's it. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. One of my
The rounds for time thing, if you're really trying to meet a certain time, it can very easily kick your ass if you're putting everything into it.
oh yeah, for
And
Right.
sure.
if they say it's easy, well, you didn't put that much into it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
One of the older programs that I did, and it's one of the old Tony Horton programs, and one of his quotes that has always stuck with me that I just find extremely humorous, and I'll use it sometimes in situations like the one we're talking about now. Is, it's a functional fitness program, and he says something like, you know you could sit on a bench and, he says, you could sit on a bench at the gym and do curls. He says, that's cute, but this is what we're doing here. And, and it's true, when you're using different muscles at the same time and, you know, doing a more functional type program.
Yeah.
Look, if you're used to going to the gym and spending an hour and a half a day and moving from machine to machine, it's hard to get some people out of that mindset. And look, at least they're doing something. I just know
Well, right.
I know plenty of people that aren't doing anything,
Right.
Yeah, I know it seems like I put down the people that only focus on the physique muscles and only want
Right.
to, do the big three,
Sure.
but you're still in there doing something. One of
Right.
my friends that I've known since I was 12, he's big into, looking good, which
Right.
good for him, you know. Uh, I haven't seen him do the job yet because he works at a fire department down the road from me, but
Hmm.
I hope, when I have to watch him do the job that he's able to do it. I know he's strong. I
Sure.
know
Yeah.
if it came down to it, he could help me out.
Right.
But I just
Right.
want to know, is he going to tear a bicep doing something? Is he
Sure.
gonna
Right.
is he gonna tear a shoulder? Is he gonna tear a lat, a
Right.
quad, a hamstring, whatever? Doing something that is a basic movement on the fire ground because he's so tight, doesn't stretch properly, and only does the
Right.
same things every single day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And flexibility is so important and so
Huge.
understudied and underused by firefighters, just in my opinion, from what I've seen in working with a lot of different groups. Flexibility is not something necessarily that's on the radar. If fitness is on the radar, that's always really good. And they're like, oh, I worked out today, but how much time did you spend working on your flexibility? And I've shared posts where some days, like you, to your point, Ian, that's all I do. Like I just do some flexibility moves and, work with a foam roller and, do some kind of stuff. I dedicate some space and time just to doing that type of work because it is so important. When we have just our workout clothes on, how flexible are you just in that state
Yeah,
of being?
yeah.
And
A
that,
lot of people they're they can touch their toes or whatever, but then they get their gear on like,
yes,
and it could just be as much as the straps.
right.
They're
Yeah.
too tight.
Yep.
But you've seen it in the program for the state. When it gets to those
Yes.
hard weeks, we focus strictly on flexibility and mobility. The workouts are super super light. They're just enough to get you, get your blood flowing, get you warmed up.
Right.
But no matter who you are, you got to devote at least 1 day a week to just stretching.
Yeah.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
Aaron Quinn, from Live Serve Thrive,
Yep.
Mhm.
huge into yoga, awesome dude, and he's got some great videos on YouTube for firefighter yoga.
Yep.
Yeah.
I want one of my clients. She's a big yoga instructor. You wouldn't know it, but she's super flexible, and she
Mhm.
puts things up all the time of her doing this crazy yoga stances where I can't balance on one hand and contort myself and do all that. But I can touch my toes in my gear, all that other crap. But you gotta spend a day really going through a list of stretches just like your workout. Go through 3 rounds, just like you would any other workout, and you'll be surprised how sore you are if you haven't done it.
I was just gonna say, if you've never tried yoga or Pilates or any of that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
you think that it's not a workout aside from the stretching and the movements, you've never tried it. Because I
Yeah.
got to tell you, the sorest I probably have been in the last 5-7 years was after I did a yoga and Pilates class. I couldn't move for 3 days.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's so important too for your joint health and your stability and reducing injury risk.
Yeah.
Is to focus on the flexibility and the stretching and balance, and all of that stuff is so important for firefighters to reduce injury. When you're constantly transferring all of your weight to your larger muscle groups, your body, unless you're training your body to evenly distribute it and have, strong core strength, your body's just going to default to your larger muscle groups. And that's where injuries happen. And that's one way that you can reduce that risk, is to focus on some flexibility and stretching and that kind of important work too.
Yeah, because generally when you're doing your stretching and your flexibility training, you're focusing on the proper alignment of everything.
Right.
Which ACL tears are the number 2 injury for firefighters right after your back, and there's only a few ways that you can tear ACLs traumatically on the fire scene. Everything else can normally be related back to years and years and years of improper form, improper movement, everything else. Like I put up a video a while ago of Robert Griffin III. His combine jump. If you look at his combine jump, his knees are just at a super unnatural angle, and he's putting all that power into that vertical jump to get there. And that's because of years and years and years of mistraining, his trainers not correcting him. And a year later, traumatic ACL injury. And he's suffered, I think, 3 now.
Right.
Right.
Not to say, every ACL injury is warranted to bad form. Obviously, if, a wall collapses and you're taken out, yeah. But if you're going up the stairs and then all of a sudden you hear a pop and you go down, it's because you probably have been walking very oddly for years and years and years, and finally your ACL just says, you know what, I'm done.
Right.
I dislocated my patella. My MCL was partially torn just because of twisting. God dang it! Just because I planted my foot and I turned too fast, and that scared the crap out of me. I've never
Yeah.
felt anything like that. Never heard a pop like that before. Luckily, it went right back. The patellar reduction, I think it is the new state.
Yes.
Yeah. But for a week after that, I was babying it just because it was still super unstable.
Oh yeah.
So
And ankle stability is another big one too, because we're jumping off of trucks, and that's the first thing everybody's like, you're geared up, you got your tools, you're ready to go, and instead of like taking your time and stepping out, everybody's just jumping off.
Yeah.
You're just immediately jumping off and landing. And if you're not working on your stability and your strength, that's another really like crazy way, like just stepping off an engine just to really hurt yourself.
Yeah.
And be out for a long time.
People don't realize, we talk about this stuff time and time again, but people still don't realize. All right, they think sprains and strains are the number 1 injury to firefighters, right? But they think it's something like super sexy. They're doing something super sexy when they sprain their ankle. No, 9 times out of 10, it's literally dismounting from the engine. It's like stepping off the engine. Like that's when it happens.
Yeah.
Like you're not even in the game yet. You stepped off and you're out of the game.
Right.
Tripping over a line. A lot of people don't realize how, when you mention to them as you're talking, spend a day really focusing on how you move.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Everything from walking to picking things up. And once they start looking at it and realizing it, they're paying more attention to it subconsciously.
Right.
I know, when we have lift assists, everything else, I'm really looking at how am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going upstairs, we got to go up 3, 4, 5 flights of stairs. I'm like, all right, is everything really in line? Am I rolling my feet at all? It's just simple stuff that once you start thinking about it, it becomes natural, where you're just doing it second nature.
Yeah, I talk in my class a lot about mind-body connection, trying to focus on what you want your body to do by thinking of it and thinking of the muscle group that you're supposed to be focusing on and working, and then feeling the difference when you are thinking about that area of your body versus when you're just going through the motions of the workout. It makes a huge difference. And I know that if you are, for example, doing like a core movement or an ab movement and you're not thinking about your ab, it's very easy to transfer that work to your shoulders and your back without even realizing that you're doing it. But if you are, and it's even like something as simple as a tricep kickback, it's very easy to transfer that to a larger muscle rather than thinking about
Just
where you're putting that resistance. So if you're thinking about your tricep, you're going to feel it more in your tricep. So making that mind-body connection is really, really important. And that can carry over into your yoga practice and your flexibility practice, thinking about mindfulness and staying in the moment and, you know, your mental health and wellness. Like, it's all connected. And it seems really overwhelming to get started, to like find a starting point for that if people aren't already doing some of this fitness related activity as firemen. So what are some ways that if a department wants to get their crew started, because they know like it's a good idea, like, you know, they're not disagreeing, it's a good idea, we need to be doing it, we want to reduce injury, we want to keep our firemen safe, we want everybody to be healthy. What are some easy ways to initiate that process?
So we did it at my department. We do it as often as we can if we don't get hammered with calls right away. Every morning after coffee, it's just super simple, like 5 minute stretch routine.
Yep.
I'm the youngest one on my group by 20 years. And these guys, they say, every morning after we do it, they're like, man, I feel great. And it's just from 5 minutes of stretching, and they perform better. They feel better throughout the day. And it's just the simple stretches too. You don't got to do anything crazy. Just, the quad stretch, super simple, the normal quad stretch, the bend and touch your toes, hamstring stretch, across the shoulder. I always like to show them the upper trapezius stretch too, with the hand behind the back and tilt your head a little bit, because that area is super sensitive on us because we do a lot of quick movements, and when we're wearing our air pack, that can turn into a pull or a tear. So just very simple 5 minute stretch routine, and you'd be surprised how many guys, if they do it every shift or every time they're at the firehouse staffing or before drill or whatever, they realize, man, this is working. What else can you teach me?
Right.
Then it hopefully eventually will lead to that time in the gym, you teaching them more about movement, form, function, everything else.
Yeah, I think you make a great point about starting small, because I think that we're kind of blessed and cursed, right now with all the information that we have available to us, right?
Yeah.
Like we can find trainers everywhere. We can find tons of information on YouTube. There's this, fitness plan package that you can purchase. There's this one that you can purchase. Some people have really easy accessibility to things like CrossFit or things like, some kind of boot camp training or whatever locally to them that they think that they want to try. And it can get really overwhelming, right? And I think that can be a barrier to people as well, because they think, oh my gosh, I don't know if I want to do a 12-week training program.
Right. And people are also I find that people are also very narrow-minded when it comes to this kind of stuff. Like it's very easy for them to make excuses. And sometimes the excuses are as simple as, oh, I'm not at the level you guys are at yet. So that's why I don't want to join you.
That's a huge one.
Yeah, that's a huge one. And, when I was doing some fitness training for a while, that was the biggest excuse I would get is, oh, well, I can't do those moves that you do. Like, I can't jump up in the air like that. I'm like, I don't expect you to. There's regressions for everything that we do. There's a different way to do it. Just get there. Just come and give it a shot. And I find that's the same thing at the firehouse when we try to get like a group exercise type thing going on. Look, not everybody is going to start at the same level, so
that's one huge thing I teach in my classes is, there's two different types of people. There's the firefighter that's got to be able to do his job and every way that he's perceived to do.
Yep.
Then there's like Hafthor Bjornsson or Eddie Hall or Brian Shaw, who are literally the world's strongest men.
Mm-hmm.
Can deadlift 1,000 pounds, carry stones as big as a car,
Right.
but that's their job. They can
Yeah,
only do
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
Then
That's it.
they're out for
Yeah.
Yeah.
20, 30 minutes or whatever until the next event.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
can they fight fire? Maybe.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't, if gear would fit them. You know, I don't want to know what the cost would be for that, but you know, they have their job of being the world's strongest men. That's what pays their bills.
Yep.
We've got the job of being a firefighter to protect the people that we signed up to save and protect and serve.
Right.
And they don't need a guy who's got shoulders that are 5 feet wide trying to make it through their house, knocking everything over, when all they can do is lift but down.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
The gym intimidation, I think is
Yeah.
the word. With
Right.
you know, maybe they had people had a bad experience with a dude bro at LA Fitness or something that
Right.
grunts when he benches or whatever, and that was it. And
Right.
they see somebody that's fit, they think it's going to be like him, even though they could be the nicest person in the world, want to teach you and want to train you, because they had that one bad experience. It might take a little bit more coaching them to really fall into that field.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. And just individualizing the experience, for
Yeah.
that person, and helping them to achieve whatever their goals are. I mean, if we're like, when we're working at Academy, the recruits have a goal of being able to pass the CPAP, but I don't like them to get hyper focused on that necessarily,
Yeah.
because what I try to talk to the recruits about is, you're just starting your career. You're just starting your career in the fire service, and some of them are already hired on the job, and some of them are, like what you did, putting yourself through, in hopes to get hired. Or we certainly do have volunteers that are at the Academy too, that are going through the program.
Mm-hmm.
But I talk to all of them about longevity. And if you really want to do this, you want to be able to do it for more than 6 weeks.
Yeah.
You're not looking at a short gain here. You should be looking at a long-term gain and program. And when we're not waking you up at 6 a.m. for PT anymore, and there's nobody there tapping you on the shoulder, are you going to be able to have the self-discipline to do the work that you need to do to have a 20-year career, a 25-year career, or however long you're going to be in the fire service? That's got to be, the onus has to be on them, so that they can carry that forward and continue with it.
Yeah.
And be able to be successful.
That was a big reasoning for the state to call me back, a year ago now, actually exactly a year ago.
Yeah.
When they said, a lot of these recruits, when they're coming back for classes, they're not looking like they did when they were here. And when we ask them why, they say normally it's because, well, all we did was push-ups and sit-ups and flutter kicks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when I talk to a lot of the people around my area, why they've, not worked out as much or why they're not working out, it was the same thing, because of that prisoner PT. Now, when I'm still in touch with the recruits from the first class that we did, and a lot of them are doing a lot better than they were in the academy, just because they learned that there's so many movements that are super simple that you can do to stay fit, stay
Right.
healthy, stay good at the job.
Right.
So just the fact that, on the recruit level, you show them, you teach them 8 different ways to work your core,
Right.
none of which involve the stupid, sit up on a rock floor. That makes them happy because it doesn't destroy their back,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
makes them feel like they've accomplished something.
Right. And then telling them why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Why is your working your core important? That kind of thing. Why are you making me do this movement? Because this is why. If I'm making you do a kneeling sandbag drag, that's mimicking dragging a hose line. Like, that's why we're doing what we're doing. And I have had pushback from recruits about that. They're like, that's not how it's going to be. That's not how it is. And I'm like, well, when you're in a training tower and the conditions are set up for you, is very different when you're in a house you've never been in before.
Mm-hmm.
And you're in the dark and you can't see anything and everybody's stuff is everywhere.
Yeah.
It's extremely different when you're trying to drag a line through there and find the fire and get to the fire versus just a planned set training movement of what that you've done for weeks, and you know exactly what it's going to look like and what to do.
Yeah. And that's unfortunately the one downside that with any academy really is you have the training conditions, and no matter where you go, I've never seen FDNY's set up. I'm
Right.
sure they've got 25
Right.
different places they can practice in, but for the most part, with smaller academies, agencies, whatever, there's only so much you can do with a single training tower.
Correct.
So you've really got to, we did it here with our week and a half of burns. We made so many different scenarios, everything from advancing through a locked gate, and we got to break the lock to get the hand line through and go up to the second floor, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
No burn building has a basement, but you can still simulate going into a basement fire, but going up the stairs and back down the stairs to really kind of get that feel for things and see how hard it can be. So being creative when it comes to the fire train, live fires, is it's a lot of fun for one. We had a lot of fun building all the props, getting everything set up. But it's different, especially for those that have been going to the same burn tower for 10, 15 years.
Sure.
Then all of a sudden you throw a different scenario and they're like, this is not how it is.
Yeah.
Well, there's a house literally like this 2 miles down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So,
And even something like hoarder fires, or hoarder EMS calls, right? Like that's a huge issue. And if you haven't ever trained in a cluttered environment and tried to get a charge line through it, you're in for a real surprise.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I want to hit on with both of you guys, and we've talked about all of this, I think, in various ways on the show before, right? The hardest part for most people when it comes to fitness, irregardless of its firefighter fitness or any other type of fitness, right, is starting. That's always the hardest thing, is starting. So the nice thing about obviously a career academy or something like the State Fire Academy is you've got a captive audience, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've got to take part in this whether they like it or not, right? So, but in the volunteer world, you don't have that captive audience. And even if they come out to the training tower for a firefighter 1 class and they can't move a hose line, let alone drag a 175-pound mannequin, and you give the talk and you talk about the importance of being better, being stronger, being more able to do the job, they still go home, right? They still go back to the station that doesn't really motivate them to do anything, right? So what is, seeing that I have the two of you on here together, right? This is your thing. What is your advice to those individuals? Because I know for a fact there are people they're going to listen to this podcast and say, that is me. Like, I was out of breath moving the 24-foot extension ladder yesterday, right? Or I was out of, or I felt like I exhausted myself stretching the line to the door. Forget going in the building, stretching the line to the door, right? So what is your advice for them, for those people that, the agency isn't really supporting them? There's the what's the word I'm looking for? The culture isn't there, but they know that they have to do better, and maybe they can be the one that sparks the culture.
So it's kind of a double-edged sword. So for them to spark the culture in their firehouse, they need to be at a certain level of a natural leader.
Sure.
And even if they're a line officer, if they're they just got elected lieutenant and they really want to make a change for the better, not only for their fire department but for the people that they serve.
Yep.
That is the prime opportunity, because we've all seen it. With the new regime of officers, things typically change in one way or another. and that is and I think most departments are coming up on election season anyways, right?
Yeah.
So
November, December, December.
now if you're thinking about running, that would be the opportune time that when you're elected, do it up, make it part of the drill. Um,
Mhm.
we do it here with the volunteers. Albeit we have a very small incentive, but it's still an incentive, and
Hmm.
incentives speak.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. I agree.
and it's the simplicity of putting $50 in their uniform allowance fund for the year. If they participate in a guided fitness program for a set amount of time and complete a CPAT type test,
Hmm.
Mhm.
um, and things like that. So if you're a line officer, or if you're a senior firefighter, or if you're a gung ho, and maybe you are into fitness and you just want to get the rest of your crew, your company, whatever, into fitness, that's the opportunity to say, hey, we're not getting it from leadership, we're not getting it from the district, the department, whatever,
Right.
but let's be the epitome of what a good fire company, whether you're a devoted truck company or you're a devoted engine company of your firehouse,
Hmm.
that's the opportunity. That's the opportunity to do it, because you can become the new normal.
Mhm.
Eventually, old guys are going to leave, new guys are going to come in. It's always going to happen everywhere. As
Sure.
soon as those new guys come in and they see the guys that used to be young, still doing PT in their 40s, that's what's going to make the difference, because these young guys aren't going to be outdone by these old guys. If
Right.
they can do it, why can't I do it?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's just some of my advice.
And I think that that's so important. And it's such a valuable thing when the leadership recognizes the importance of it and starts to lead from the front and leads by example, right? And there's so much carryover of all of that. If starting with something just as simple as fitness. Um, Individually, and I've talked about this before on other podcasts that I've been on. I've talked about it on our program. Um, it's if you want to start, then just start. If the only thing that you can do is walk for 30 minutes a day, start by walking 30 minutes a day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then add in carrying some weights with you while you're walking. And then start, using those weights. If you are at a station that doesn't have a gym and you don't have gym equipment, and right now with COVID, some people are still really limited with what access they have to gym equipment and gyms and things like that. For some people it's financially restrictive to be a member of a gym or join a gym or take classes. What do you have at your firehouse? Can you do laps around your bays with containers of foam? Can you
There's
Yeah.
practice farmers
water cans
carry?
weigh 28
Right.
pounds.
Water cans, can you roll up some hose and carry it up and down flights of stairs? Can you put on your air pack and do some push-ups? Can you step up and down off the tailboard with your air pack on? You know, there, can you grab a pike pole and do some extended reaches, ceiling pullers, things like that. There's stuff available to you. It's just a matter of thinking outside the box. If you're looking around your station and saying, I don't have weights, I don't have a medicine ball, I don't have a sandbag, that's okay. What do you have?
Yeah. Yeah,
The
absolutely.
the most important thing that an individual can do is just get started. And I totally agree with Ian that once somebody starts it, nobody wants to be outdone.
Yeah.
Right.
And it has that ripple effect of that they want to be a part of it too, and they want to better themselves too. And when people start to see the difference it makes when you're reducing your consumption time on your bottle, for example, or when you're noticing that it's easier to pull that line, and you're starting to get that benefit from it, whether or not you have aesthetic gains or not, it makes a huge difference. And then you're going to pass that on to other people and they're going to see it in you too.
Yeah. A big thing that I I absolutely freaking like. There's one thing that pisses me off. It's excuses. So
Yeah.
a lot of the ones I hear all the time.
You're being stalked.
Can call it that. It was a little bit creepy though. One of the things I hear all the time is I'll be embarrassed, or
Right.
people will make fun of me.
Right.
Um, our fire department's got a camera in the gym solely for safety reasons.
Hmm.
But a lot of people think, we're up here just looking at the screen, pointing and laughing at
Yeah.
this person, when in
Yeah.
reality, we're usually not up there looking at a screen. We're doing something else.
Right.
Right.
So, if they come back there and they see me doing this and they could do a lot more weight, like you were saying, no, I, I've been approached a lot, like, hey, can we do this, but can we do it at my weight? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I can.
Yeah.
I'll just do your weight and I'll do it with it. I'd rather teach you at your weight and use your weight doing
Right.
this workout and have it benefit you to have you come back here more and be
Right.
more healthy and better at your job than me to get the best work out of my day. I would
Right.
feel a lot better about myself if I affect you in a positive way than myself.
It's all part of
Right.
this crazy brotherhood thing that we all buy into,
Right?
that
Right?
like we actually should want to see people get better, not we're
Right.
there to make fun of people,
Yeah.
and the same thing. Look, we've got a crew of a few of our firefighters that get together on occasion to work out at the station. Our group message has more than that few,
Hmm.
but only the few show up. And I know the reason why. The other ones are like, oh, I'll be embarrassed, or I can't do, like we're all gonna sit there and mock them for, like,
Yeah.
I'd be thrilled to see them like try. You don't have to pick up any weight, do just
Yeah.
the weight that is your
Yep.
body,
So
Yeah.
one of the toughest exercises you can do is pyramid push-ups with a hand press,
Yeah.
up to 10 and back down. No
Yeah.
weights involved, and you are torched at the end.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's the simplicity of things that people don't realize until they ask.
Yeah.
You just
Yep.
gotta ask. And it's a lot easier to sit at home and watch Netflix or play Xbox or whatever. But it's also a lot easier to throw that 24-foot by yourself to make a life or death grab.
Sure.
Somebody that's hanging out a
Right.
window.
Right. And if you're short staffed, or there's something major going on, you want to be the person that can do the work that needs to be done. You don't want to be the person
Yeah,
that showed up but couldn't do it.
yeah. My town is in a world where a working fire. We have staff firehouses, but a working fire at most initial call, we're getting 6 to 8 people.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
6 to 8 people is not a lot on a fire scene,
Nope.
especially if it's an apartment fire and you got to make a couple of rescues or something.
Mm-hmm.
That's all your resources, right? And that's including the line officer that's outside.
Right.
Right.
So, if you're down to 6 to 8 people, you need to rely on the one person to throw the ladders, the one or two people that stretch that hand line and get it in place. You got the
Right.
driver operator, they're out of play.
Yep.
So every
Mhm.
single person on that first arrival really needs to make sure they're on top of their game, fitness and mental wise. Or
Regardless
it's
of their role, because even somebody that's like consistently the operator, consistently the chauffeur, you are still going to be required to do some work. You're going to have to get tools out. You're going to have to,
yeah,
run back and forth. You're going to have to do long periods of standing in different temperatures, things like that. You're still doing a lot of work on your body that you're not thinking about.
Right, which is why
And
all these cardiac arrests are not the guys and girls that are searching on the hose line or
right,
throwing ladders. It could be the chief that was standing at the command vehicle all night. It could be the
yeah.
yeah,
apparatus operator that was literally at the pump panel.
And when you look at the reports of the medical line of duty deaths, it normally is the guys that are outside.
hmm
Yep.
And you know, personally, it never says in the report, but it more than likely is stress related because that's a
Sure.
very stressful position to be in.
Yep.
right,
And a lot of those reports, they mention the words that so and so said to their crew that they were not feeling well, then went home, or they
Yep.
mentioned to their
right,
wife or their husband that they weren't feeling right and they're going to lay down.
Yep.
hmm
Then they're found a few hours later blue.
Mm-hmm.
right,
So and that's another thing I teach in my class. If somebody, whether you're at a training event, come back from a call, somebody says those words and they're not looking right, don't let them go home.
Sure.
right,
Because chances are they're going to die.
Yep.
It's
right,
better to really look out for your brother or your sister. See if they're, do the simplicity of checking their vitals. That can
right.
show you that much right there.
Yep.
Yep,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
All right. Good stuff.
Which is good stuff.
I like it.
What else?
So yeah, so let's, I want to close it out by, I mean, you guys are both super accessible on social media. And I know you're both the type of people that if somebody shoots you a question, you're actually going to answer them. You're not going to just, blow them off or try and sell them a program. And if they don't buy a program, blow them off some more,
Yeah.
but what do you have out there? Because I know you both have things that you offer outside of training at the academy and working with different agencies, working with individuals. Ian, I know you got some stuff going on with programming like Kara does. So let's kind of talk about that in closing. So if somebody's listening to this and they know they need to do something, but they're not really sure how to do it or how to go about it. And maybe they just need the help of somebody saying, hey, this is what I want you to do on Monday. And this is what I want you to do on Wednesday. Because I know for me, when I got, really refocused on fitness, that was the hardest part. And that's why I went to pre-programmed stuff. I just wanted to push a button and have it tell me, this is what you're doing today for the next 30 minutes, Brian.
Yeah.
Okay. And then move on to the next day. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, Ian, what do you have going on?
Yeah. So on top of the custom programs I offer for individuals, a big thing that I would rather do is come to fire department and teach.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can reach one person with a program, or I can reach this entire agency with the benefits and this simple know-how, whether it's a 2-day class or not. And, one day focused on the benefits of everything, and we go over the stretching. Next day, go over the workouts, the exercises, movements, everything else, and leave them with that knowledge where they're able to continue on themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently in the process of writing a plan for a fire academy down in New Jersey.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's exciting. Actually, the guy from he runs Steel Mace Nation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Sure.
he hooked me up with that, and him, myself, and another guy down in Louisville, we're working on something big. So stay tuned for that. But I also offer, just if a fire department is looking for a fitness and health drill night, I offer it's like a 2-hour class that's followed up with super simple stretching and very easy workout movements anyone can do at home. But with the custom workout plans I offer, they are truly custom. They're not cut and paste. I know a lot of these plans that people would, you could go online and search workout plan.
Sure.
So and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
offers a workout plan, paying $75, and it's sent to you like that.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I,
Right. Right.
I ask very specific questions, get details, and I spend 3 to 5 days working on these plans to make sure I'm giving the person the right thing.
Yeah. You're not creating
Um,
that. You're not creating that in a PDF in like 30
no,
seconds. Yeah.
no, and I take these things very, very seriously, and I take them to heart because they are for people that, money is not easy to come by right now. And if they're
Right.
willing to pay me that hard-earned buck, I'm not gonna just take advantage of it. Just go, here you go, an hour later.
Yeah.
And not only that, but it's people that are serving and protecting.
Yeah.
They're the front line in America.
Mm-hmm.
I
Right.
take this, on top of my military service, I take the job as a firefighter super, super seriously.
Mhm.
And military units have contacted me, and I've taken a lot of time to create those programs because these guys are going overseas at some point,
Sure.
and I don't want to be the reason that life and death was decided.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
Right. Awesome.
Very good.
And same thing, if people have questions, I'm happy to get them started and try to answer questions. I do have a lot of awesome people that have reached out to me through social media and messaged me and asked me for help or for information or direction. And I'm always happy to help people. I started St. Florian Fitness with the goal of trying to be part of the change to reduce line of duty deaths related to cardiac health. That's always the mission of St. Florian Fitness, and that's what I want to do. I've been very fortunate to hear back from family members and widows of people who have lost their lives in the line of duty due to cardiac health. And I've written honor workouts for them, and their family members have seen them and reached out to me. And that's one of the most rewarding things about this that has happened to me so far. In addition to doing some contract work, teaching with some agencies that are local to me, I also, like Ian, do offer fitness and wellness seminars. You can always DM me or follow me on St. Florian Fitness on Instagram and Facebook. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me. I'm usually pretty good about responding. And so, yeah.
If you're not all salty from being at Jobtown all night long, don't catch her on Jobtown morning, folks, because it might take a little while.
Listen, it might have been a 3 or 4 coffee morning and I'd got a half a coffee. So you'll have that.
Yeah, I hear you.
Usually I'm really good in the mornings, I swear.
Well, guys, this was good. Listen, I know whether they want to admit it or not, there are people that are listening to this on the whatever podcast player you use, or they're going to watch it on YouTube, and they're going to have a come to Jesus moment and be like, oh, they're talking about me again. Listen, if you're thinking about it, it's kind of like how I teach Mayday when I'm talking about Mayday. I'm like, if you're thinking about calling a Mayday, you probably should be calling the Mayday, right? So if you're thinking,
it's better call it than to not call it.
Right, it's better to call it than to not call it. So if your brain is telling you, hey, I'm in a bad spot here, and maybe I should be calling a Mayday, guess what? You should probably be doing it. All right, so stop thinking about it. Same thing with your fitness. If you're thinking about making a change, all right, and this podcast has spoken to you, make a change. Reach out to one of these guys, find something that you're comfortable with, do what Ian said, start small, right? If you live in a rural area, instead of riding the 4-wheeler to get the mail at the end of the driveway, like walk there and get the mail, start small, baby steps. All right. But again, if these guys can help you, make sure you reach out. So Ian, you can be found at Thin Line Fitness, right? On Instagram.
Yeah. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, website. Our website's Thin Line Fit. But...
All right. There you go.
No Ness.
Doesn't get any.
Somebody already had that one.
We're Nestless.
Yeah.
Doesn't get any easier than that. So listen, I appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you very much.
Yes,
I know
thank you.
A couple shameless plugs real quick.
Go ahead. Plug away.
So another thing that's going to be happening, there's an online learning platform for athletes. However, during one of my college courses, I was in contact with her for an assignment, and I mentioned that, she should have something on her platform, since a lot of fire departments are going to virtual learning now, about firefighter fitness. The company's Gravitational Performance, they're getting accredited to provide CEUs for pretty much everything, which is great. So I'm in the process of creating a program for this online learning platform, which is great. So in a few months, if fire departments are looking for a way to get education without having to do anything about firefighter health and wellness, chances are it'll be on that website, and I'll have things up for that.
Very
More
cool.
importantly,
Awesome.
as we know, Movember's coming up. If you can't tell by my super invisible mustache right here, I've been growing this thing for like 3 months. So Stash Salt Mustache Wax, Griffin, he's an amazing dude. That competition's coming up. Even if you can't grow a mustache and you're fish deficient like me,
I can't do it.
My last deployment, I grew it for 6 months. Still couldn't see it, so I colored it in with a red and blue marker. It's terrible. Another guy using an entire box of hair dye on his mustache.
Dude, I look like
thinking about doing that.
I look like a 70s porn star pedophile if I
Perfect.
try and grow a mustache. It's
Perfect.
just so bad. It's just horrible. I can't do it.
So if you can grow facial hair or not, still give Stash Salt Mustache Wax and Griffin a follow for this Movember. Super awesome prizes come out of that, and the community in there is just great too. He's a fireman's fireman down in Texas.
Yeah.
Super nice dude. Loves Jesus, loves God, loves his family, and really loves the job. So give them a follow. Stay in touch with them now because the competition's open. But he's putting out stuff daily about what's going on and everything else. So
Yeah, they
Nice.
post some great some
They
good stuff.
achieve some good stuff.
I remember being in touch with him when he was thinking about starting this company, and that was 2 years ago, and it's just blown up.
Yeah.
He got an itch. He stuck with it. He's great at what he does. And if you got a mustache, check him out. Great product.
Good stuff. Well, guys, thank you, Ian. I know we've been trying to do this for a while, and schedules have been kind of
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
over the place. So I'm glad it worked out, and I'm glad you were able to sit still for an hour and not
Yeah, me too.
tones didn't drop for a run out the door.
I made a great dinner tonight. I made chicken saltimbocca. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but literally as soon as I got the Yonki out of the pot and I finished the last cutlet, tones dropped. We came back to cold Yonki, soggy meat.
Oh,
I was
that's the
pissed.
worst.
Yeah.
I was pissed.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining us. Thanks
Yeah.
for all you
Thank
do.
you, Ian.
Thank you for your service. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
And,
if you ever want to have me back, I'd be more than happy.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
We'll definitely have you back.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a fitness forum one of these days. We got all
Every
this.
so often, a little fitness refresher.
Yep, absolutely. And Kara and I still have our cool T-shirts.
Beautiful.
So,
That's right. Yeah. Still available if anybody wants to sport the coolest shirts in town.
yep, absolutely. All right, Kara, thank you as always.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Go get some sleep.
I'm going to, hopefully.
All right, guys. Thanks
All right.
again. Stay safe.
Bye.
You too.